This is a story of a very old violin that stored a secret, one that laid hidden for 80 years. This instrument was crafted behind barbed wire in Dachau, a concentration camp in Germany, by a prisoner fighting to survive. Now understand, this is not just any instrument. Rather, it's a message, a miracle, and a memory carved into wood. This is the extraordinary story of the Violin of Hope, the only known instrument built inside a Nazi concentration camp, and the man whose hands gave it life. Adding to this remarkable narrative was what was found inside this old violin. What was it? You're about to find out. Welcome to That's Life, I Swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. You know, there have been many dark moments in human history where suffering seems boundless and hope appears extinguished. Small acts of creation can become profound statements of resistance. This is a story of a violin crafted in 1941 within the confines of Dachau concentration camp. It was an instrument that would remain silent from its origins for over 8 decades before finally revealing its extraordinary tale. The revealing secret was a simple note. The note read as follows: trial instrument, made under difficult conditions, with no tools and materials. Dachau, 1941. Franciszek Kempe. The words were written on a small piece of paper, now worn and secretly stored within a violin's hollow body. The note connects us directly to a moment of remarkable human resilience. They form a bridge across time, from the brutal reality of Nazi concentration camps to our present day. The note reads almost like an apology from a master craftsman, explaining why his work fell short of the standards to which he had dedicated his life. Yet in this humble explanation lies an extraordinary testament to the human spirit. 2 Hungarian art dealers, Thomas Tolosi and Sandra Katona, sent the violin out for repair after discovering it under purchased furniture. They could not have anticipated the historical treasure they possessed. Initially, puzzled by the contradiction between evident craftsmanship and poor materials, the person repairing disassembled the instrument to find Kempe's hidden message. This revelation transformed a curious antique into a very powerful historical artifact and symbol of hope. Franciszek Kempe was more than just a prisoner at Dachau. He was a master violin maker whose identity and professional pride persisted despite the Nazi regime's systematic effort to strip prisoners of their humanity. The documents recovered from the Dachau Memorial Site suggest that Kempe's skills as an instrument maker were known to his captors, knowledge that may have contributed to his survival when millions of others perished. Born in Poland, Kempe had likely spent years mastering his craft before the war, developing the precision and artistry that would later be evident even in an instrument created under the most dire of circumstances. His expertise was so ingrained that even without proper tools or materials, his trained hands could produce something recognizable as the work of a master. After surviving the horrors of Dachau, Kempe returned to his native Poland, where he continued making instruments until his death in 1953. This detail is poignant. It's a testament to how deeply intertwined his identity was with his craft. Even after experiencing unimaginable trauma, he returned to the work that had perhaps helped preserve not only his life, but also his sense of self during captivity. Now, something has to be said about this violin. To understand the true significance of Kempe's work, one must comprehend its created environment. Dachau, established in March of 1933 near Munich, was the first concentration camp opened by the Nazi regime. Initially designed to hold political prisoners, it evolved into a model for other camps, and eventually imprisoned Jews, clergymen, homosexuals, and others targeted by the Nazi persecution. The camp became synonymous with forced labor, medical experimentation, and systematic brutality. By the time the American forces liberated Dachau on April 29, 1945, at least 40,000 people had died there from starvation, disease, execution, or mistreatment. This was the reality in which Kempe somehow managed to create his violin, where basic human needs like adequate food, shelter, and dignity were denied, let alone specialized materials for crafting musical instruments. While musical instruments were present in many concentration camps, often permitted by Nazis for propaganda purposes to present a false image of camp life, all previously known instruments at Dachau were believed to have been brought in by prisoners. Kempe's violin stands unique as the only known instrument constructed within the camp's walls, making it not just an historical curiosity, but a singular artifact of creative resistance. The contradiction inherent in Kempe's violin is profound. While the Nazis operated a system designed to destroy, Kempe engaged in an act of creation, using whatever materials he could collect and improvising tools from available objects. He transformed raw components into something that could produce beauty. The very act of crafting the violin, regardless of its quality relative to his pre-war work, was a defiance of the destructive environment surrounding him. This creative act likely provided Kempe with more than just a way to pass the time or demonstrate his skills to the Nazis. By focusing intensely on a task that connected him to his pre-war identity, Kempe could temporarily escape the harsh realities of the camp, preserving a core sense of self when the system was designed to eradicate individuality. In the words of the Hungarian art dealer Thomas Tolosi, who helped uncover the violin's history, she said, and I quote, "We named it the violin of hope because if someone ends up in a difficult situation, having a task or a challenge helps them get through a lot of things. You focus not on the problem, but on the task itself. And I think this helped the maker of this instrument to survive the concentration camp." End quote. The path the violin took from Dachau to a Hungarian art dealer's collection remains unknown, a mystery that mirrors countless objects displaced during the chaos of World War II and its aftermath. I mean, did Kempe give it to a fellow prisoner? Did a guard take it? Did he carry it with him upon liberation? These questions remain unanswered, yet the instrument's survival through decades of obscurity feels almost unbelievable. Now, we know that the violin carried its secret message for over 80 years before revealing its origins. Now, during that time, it existed as an ordinary, if curious instrument, played, displayed, stored, sold, and eventually put aside amongst furniture. It harbored a direct connection to one of history's darkest chapters, waiting for the moment when its true significance would be discovered. The violin's journey from creation to discovery parallels how history often works. Important stories remain hidden, sometimes for generations, before emerging to shed new light on our understanding of the past. Kempe's message, preserved within the instrument's wooden body, traveled through time like a message in a bottle, eventually reaching a world ready to hear its story. Kempe's violin joins a broader legacy of art created under extreme duress during the Holocaust, from poetry written on scraps of paper in ghettos to sketches made by camp prisoners documenting their experiences. Creative expression became a crucial survival strategy for many. These works serve multiple purposes. They help preserve sanity, maintain cultural identity, document atrocities, and sometimes even improve one's standing with the prison guards. Kempe's violin is remarkable because it combines practical skills with artistic expression. Unlike a poem or a drawing that might be hidden away, a violin is an object meant to be seen and heard. Its creation required artistic vision, technical knowledge, manual dexterity, and problem-solving abilities, all sustained under conditions specifically designed to break the human spirit. Think about that. The violin shows that people found ways to express themselves, even in places designed to eliminate human dignity and creativity. In creating this instrument, Kempe asserted his humanity in a system that sought to deny it. Each careful cut, each improvised joint, and each decision about form represented a small rebellion against the dehumanizing process of the camp. Even as the Nazi regime inflicted its worst, Kempe maintained his identity as a craftsman and his connection to beauty and creation. His note explaining the instrument's shortcomings shows he maintained professional standards and pride in his work, even when circumstances made meeting those standards impossible. The name given to Kempe's creation, the Violin of Hope, captures its enduring significance. More than just a historical artifact, it is a powerful metaphor for human resilience. Like hope itself, the violin survived against overwhelming odds, carried its message through decades of obscurity, and eventually emerged to inspire others. Its discovery in our time provides an opportunity for reflection on how creative acts can sustain us during our periods of difficulty. While few will face circumstances as extreme as Kempe's, his example reminds us that focusing on creation rather than despair offers a path forward, even in dark times. The violin also challenges us to consider what we might create under difficult circumstances, not just physical objects, but moments of kindness, expressions of truth, or works of beauty that defy the limitations around us. It asks us to recognize the profound statement made when one chooses to create than destroy, to build rather than break. The story of Francesca Kempe's violin continues to resonate, quite literally, as it has been restored and can now produce the music its maker intended. Each note played on this instrument carries with it the echo of extraordinary origins. A concentration camp where death was commonplace, but where one man insisted on creating life through his craft. In the end, Kempe's hidden note was more than an explanation for the violin's technical shortcomings. It was a message to the future that creative resistance is possible even in humanity's darkest hours. 8 decades later, that message has now been received by a world that continues to need reminders of hope's persistence. The violin proves that even when surrounded by mankind's most incredible cruelty, the human capacity for creation cannot be fully extinguished. In this simple wooden instrument, we find an extraordinary testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a reminder that even in our darkest hours, we retain the power to create rather than merely endure. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? Kempe's violin is a reminder that even in the face of crushing inhumanity, the human spirit has always found ways of enduring. It can find expression in art, even under the weight of genocide. It can carve meaning from scraps of wood and string. It can speak even from silence, across 8 decades of forgetting. The violin of hope is more than an instrument. It is an answer to brutality with beauty. It is a statement that even within a system designed to erase identity, one man found a way to leave his mark, not in rage or rebellion, but in craft, in care, and in courage. As we listen to its story today, may we not only remember Kempe's bravery, but also reflect on what it means to create, endure, and hope. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which you can find on Apple Podcasts for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you soon.